Welcome back. Today we are leveling up your English with 10 powerful alternatives to the word very. I have 10 adjectives I'm teaching you, then we'll have a story time, and then we'll have a quiz, and this quiz will be more advanced. Let's get started. Instead of saying very tired, say exhausted. For example, I was completely exhausted after leading back-to-back meetings with no break. She looked emotionally exhausted after dealing with the client's endless demands. Number two, instead of saying very happy, say thrilled or overjoyed. For example, I was absolutely thrilled when my article got published in a national magazine. He was overjoyed to hear his visa was approved after months of uncertainty. Number three, instead of saying very small, say tiny. The Airbnb was tiny but beautifully designed. It felt like a luxury shoebox. She wore a tiny gold pendant that had belonged to her grandmother. Number four, instead of saying very big, say huge or enormous. For example, landing that contract was a huge step forward for the company. The data breach created an enormous headache for the IT department. Number five, instead of saying very cold, say freezing. I was freezing the entire flight. They never turned off the air conditioning. The water in the lake was freezing, but he jumped in without hesitation. Number six, instead of saying very hot, say boiling. For example, the kitchen was boiling from all the ovens running at once. It was nearly boiling outside, and I immediately regretted wearing jeans. Number seven, instead of saying very hungry, say starving. For example, we were starving after the road trip and ended up devouring everything in sight. I hadn't eaten all day, and by dinner time, I was absolutely starving. Number eight, instead of saying very scared, say terrified. For example, she was terrified she'd fail the audit and lose her license. I was terrified to speak up in the meeting, even though I knew I was right. Number nine, instead of always saying very funny, say hilarious. For example, the behind the scenes footage was more hilarious than the actual movie. His impersonation of the manager was so hilarious, we had to pause the meeting to stop laughing. Last but not least, instead of saying very stupid, say ridiculous or absurd. For example, it's ridiculous to expect people to be productive during back-to-back Zoom calls for 8 hours. The proposal was so absurd that even the board members started laughing. Now, here's a short story using all of these adjectives. I was exhausted, completely drained after leading back-to-back meetings without so much as a bathroom break. My brain was fried, my coffee was cold, and my inbox was overflowing. Just as I sat down to catch my breath, I got an email from a major publication. I blinked twice. My article had been accepted, published, national. I was thrilled, no, overjoyed. I let out a weird mix between a laugh and a scream, startling my dog. Needing a breather, I decided to book a quick solo getaway. The Airbnb looked charming in the photos, but when I arrived, it was tiny, like a luxury shoebox tiny. Still, it had character, and honestly, I kind of loved it. That night, I had dinner with an old friend who had just landed a huge promotion. We toasted to her enormous new salary. I tried not to calculate the difference between our paychecks. Back at the rental, the AC had stopped working and the place was freezing. I wrapped myself in two blankets and laughed at the irony. The next morning, I stepped outside and I immediately regretted it. It was boiling. Classic. By lunchtime, I was starving. I hadn't eaten since breakfast the day before, and I could have devoured anything that moved. I found a cozy cafe, ordered everything on the menu, and ate like I was auditioning for a food documentary. While waiting for dessert, I checked my phone and saw 12 missed calls from my manager. I was terrified. Had I missed something important? Was there a mistake in the article? Turned out, nope. He just wanted to tell me the behind the scenes video I posted had gone viral. The comments were full of people saying it was hilarious. Some even made a meme out of my awkward victory dance. Feeling bold, I read a few comments out loud to my waiter. He shook his head and said, "This job gets more ridiculous by the day." I laughed and agreed. It was absurd, but somehow it was all working out. All right. And finally, we have a short quiz. This is a little bit more advanced, so good luck. She had been up for nearly 36 hours preparing the case. By the time she got home, she could barely form a sentence. How did she feel? The policy proposal was so unreasonable and impractical that even the team members who supported it initially began to doubt it. Which word fits best? We'd been hiking through the mountains for hours and hadn't packed enough food. By the time we reached the cabin, we were completely. He stood frozen in front of the stage, palms sweating, eyes wide as hundreds of people waited for him to speak. How did he feel? When the presenter joked that he prepared his entire slideshow on the drive to the conference, the room erupted in laughter. What's the best word for that kind of joke? Let me know how you did on the quiz. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. See you next time.